Hello, everybody. It's great to be here one more time today. My name is Gary Fowler. I'm the CEO, president, founder of GSD Get You Done Venture Studios, a premier AI and quantum venture studio and family office located in the heart of Silicon Valley. I'm a 17-time serial entrepreneur with several unicorns under the belt. I was on the original management team at Click Software, which was sold to Salesforce for $1.35 billion, and also Eva.ai, an AI HR tech company I co-founded with Dr. David Yang. We believe at GSD that intellectual capacity is evenly spread around the world, but opportunities are not. And today on Top Global Startups, I'm proud to introduce Eric Goslau, who's a seasoned medtech executive with more than 30 years of leadership across cardiovascular, neurovascular, and endovascular innovation. He's a president, CEO, and co-founder of Transverse Medical, which he leads the development of the groundbreaking Point Guard device, a full-brain cerebral embolic protection system designed to prevent stroke during cardiovascular procedures. Eric's career spans startups, mid-sized companies, and Fortune 500s, where he's helped bring life-saving technologies to market, from stents and lasers to electrical surgical devices and stroke prevention innovations. Beyond Transverse, he also is co-founder and board chair of Secure Closure, developing Quattro Close, a vascular closure device addressing a significant unmet need in minimally invasive cardiovascular procedures. He brings not only technical and entrepreneurial expertise, also personal philosophy of resilience, discipline, and vision, shaped early in life through martial arts, competitive sports, and a strong family foundation. Today, we're going to dive into his journey. Hey, Eric.
Hey, Gary, how you doing? That was
So tell me
quite.
about the martial arts. Which martial arts did you study?
I studied jujitsu, is what I formally finished up in, or still continue, and it's a traditional Japanese martial art, and I hold a
Which
third.
one did you study?
It's Shinsenka-ryu Jiu-Jitsu, so traditional Jiu-Jitsu, not like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or anything like that.
I know a little bit about it. I have a couple black belts myself. So I started Hakaru Jiu-Jitsu. And,
Ah,
I remember Ichi Ni, Solon Shi, Go, Roku, Sishi, Hashi, Kuju. I couldn't forget that, right? But
back
my black belts were in Hapkido and Taekwondo. And then I also competed in Judo. So had done that. And, you're right. Tell me about that discipline that you learned from martial arts in competitive sports, and how do you bring that into your companies?
Yeah, I think the foundation of any martial arts program, doesn't matter what discipline you're doing, if it's a good program, right, it teaches you discipline, it teaches you respect. It also teaches you to kind of show that respect for the hierarchy of it. It doesn't mean that someone who holds a black belt is 10 times better than you in the sense of, you have to bow down to them, which is what we typically do. It's giving them that sign of that respect, that they've been there, they know something, and it's all part of that circular process of coming back and eventually being a white belt again, right? Because there's always something new that you're going to learn from your students, et cetera. So I kind of bring that into how I've done business, right? And the entrepreneurial side of things is that when you're building teams and things like that, you have to keep that in consideration. There's the CEO, and there's people that are coming in to join you at a very low level, entry level, that might be new to the workforce. And so, I think that whole discipline of being able to, have that kind of martial arts mentality certainly helps when you're developing a new company, especially early stage startups too.
I remember with one of my martial arts instructors, I was taking a black belt test and I couldn't test with everybody else. So we had to do it separately. And I'll never
Yeah.
forget it. He had just come from Korea, and he, went in, he could barely speak English. So I had to speak a bit of Korean with him. So he said to me that he was going to put me through this test. And he said, for strong mind. And I'm, okay, strong mind.
Yeah.
And he held up a 2-inch cinder block cap. And he told me, you can break a cinder block cap, but I'd never done one where you hold it with your left hand and smash it with your right. Now, one thing with a pine board, but a 2-inch cinder block cap's a whole different deal, because one is they're heavy. And I remember thinking about, this is like the toughest thing I've ever done in my life. This is like, we were breaking them, with, 4 on top of each other, but this is a different deal because you move anything and you might break your hand. So I
Yeah.
remember, and I said to him, I said, Grandmaster, I said, what do you need? He said, strong mind. And I said, what? And he said, imagine being on the other side. That's what he told me. So I did it. I smashed through it. And it was a lesson of life, is that never let the things you don't think you can do get you down. just think about how you can do them and stay positive and visualize them.
Yeah, my experience is very similar there. And I think what we're both striving for there is, failure is okay so long as you get back up and keep going at it. Part of my black belt test was being able to break a 2x4, or not break, but cut it with a boken. And a boken is a wooden sword. And I went through breaking so many wooden swords trying to cut a 2x4, and a clean cut on a 2x4 with a wooden sword is not as easy as you think.
Oh no,
there's a lot of challenges.
Yeah, but, he, you know what he did to me too? It was in November, and he told me to go outside. And so what he did is he put me in this, he had a giant trash can, and he filled it with ice. And then what they did is he said, go in it. And then what he did was be punching you in the stomach, because he wanted you that he wanted you to control even though you were shaking and shivering, you had to control your stomach. And but those lessons are, it sounds like you've gone through a lot of them, Eric. By the way, I have my multi-agent large language model that I built. I've been in AI for 29 years, and it starts popping questions and things out because it's listening to the conversation, pulling stuff on the internet all over about you. But it's coming up, and it says, I have to ask you these questions. What lessons from your early commercial sales career still guide you today as a CEO and an entrepreneur?
I think it's perseverance easily. So, early on in my medical device career, I carried the bag, right? And that taught me, my wife always says it too, you're like the best, Eric, of seeing through when someone says no. And honestly, it's the truth. It's early on when you're selling on the commercial side of things and you're trying to push a product forward, you don't hear no. You hear more about, hey, how can I help you? Or what's your pain today? It's about drilling down and really finding out, why is this person saying no? It's not that they don't want my product. It's probably because something else is going on in their life. And so I think that's an early lesson, and a good lesson for others, that are evolving and starting to build their careers is, don't run away from no, build on no, try to figure out exactly why no, why they're saying no. So that's it. I think that's probably one of the best lessons I've learned in the commercial side of things. But also, it takes a lot of hard work and a lot of hustle, to get sales, to build revenue, and to go out and sell a product now that's gone through rigorous development. We're in the med tech space, right? We go through years and months of developing the product, and to finally put it out there, and something might go wrong with it. You have to be able to push through those times and stay focused and get it done.
No, I agree 100%. I've been doing tech for 40 years in Silicon Valley, so I've seen a lot of it. And I started out, doing my own company, and of course, as a CEO and founder, you have to sell, right? It's part of the deal. You've got to go out and be able to sell and enchant. Beyond selling, it's about enchanting, isn't it? So, so it's asked me. It said, tell us about Transverse Medical and the mission behind the point guard device. Stroke prevention during cardiovascular procedures is a critical issue. How does point guard stand apart from existing solutions?
Yeah, great question. So just in a nutshell, what point guard is point guard's a device to protect the aortic arch, or the brain in the aortic arch, for particles and debris that might be going to the brain that could cause a stroke or lead to some form of a lesion, basically brain damage. And so point guard's unique feature is that it provides a full brain protection solution over other competitive devices. There's actually only one on-market device that's approved in the market. That's owned by Boston Scientific. It's the Sentinel device. And while it's effective in the sense of going out and capturing particles and debris, the design in the device is that it only gives you somewhat of a partial protection for patients. And so it leaves part of the brain unprotected. So our mission was to go out and solve that unmet clinical need and develop a point guard device that could provide that full brain protection, essentially covering the entire aortic arch from particles and debris that are coming off during the procedure. It sounds like that would be an easy challenge, but in med tech, and as you know as well, Gary, from your experiences too, is putting things inside a human body and trying to make them do things that you're trying to better that position of the product is not easy. And so over the course of several generations of devices, putting it into human, putting it into preclinical settings as well, we've really learned a lot about what it requires in order to put an embolic protection device into the human body. we're at a very close point in our stage and look really, really good for getting ready for our FDA IDE pivotal trial, which will probably start towards the end of next year.
No, that's fantastic. And so it just came back and it says, so go down through and ask Eric, what have been some of the biggest challenges in moving some concept to clinical development?
The challenges are obviously the regulatory body, right? And making sure that you're putting a safe product forward, right? And so there's a lot of verification, validation testing that's required, specifically since we're a class 2 device, and going into that space means that we need to be able to show that it's safety, but also show that it's has efficacy, right? So we'll be doing a clinical trial to show the safety, which we feel pretty strongly will nail. But the efficacy aspect of the study would be to show that you can show a patient benefit. And stroke's not easy to study, so we're looking at ways to do that differently. And that's going to be our competitive, that's going to be the challenge going forward, but we have a pretty good strategy to go forward with that.
It's interesting. So I just want to get your opinion. This is not from my AI side. This is from me. So my father had a stroke, and when he had the stroke, they told me he wouldn't be able to walk or wouldn't be able to talk again, Eric. And I'm I'm a psychologist, right? And so I started to look at this thing from that perspective. And I remember there's some basic elements of humanity, things like love. And I'll tell you where this has gone, how we tie this together. So they said we'd never walk or talk again, and they want to put him in a nursing home. So I said I want to take him home. So I got full-time caregivers and nurses and physical therapists to come out and visit the house. It's a miracle of God, because what happened with my father with the stroke is that he walked and talked in about 2.5 months, right? And they said he would never get up again. Love is a very important part of it. I bought him a basset hound, a little basset hound, and he always wanted a basset hound, and he went nuts for it. I said, Dad, you got to take her out for a walk and all this. Then we put together a remote patient monitoring system. So we built an AI-driven remote patient monitoring system, put in my dad's house, because I was in California with my company, and I wanted to know what was going on in Pennsylvania in the house. Put it in place. Then I started to understand, Eric, that I told you I had the 2 full body stem cell replacements done. My stage 3 kidney disease gone, but I've seen stroke patients there, right? They would come in and profound impact on them. Right? Where they were talking, they weren't babbling, they were talking, the neurons and synapses, things changed. And here's what I'm thinking. I just want your opinion on it. I think if we take a holistic approach and tie what you're doing together with some of the things like full body stem cells, building a remote patient monitoring system and love and compassion, those kind of things, we can dramatically increase the longevity of people through integrated approaches. And I just wanted your opinion, what you think about that.
Well, I can't disagree. I think, anytime you throw a little bit of love into the into the world, I think it helps quite a bit, right? And I think from, like, with your dad's situation too, he was, had the effect of a stroke post-operative. And, I think that's, part of that healing process, right? And that leads to, I couldn't do what I do unless I had family and love surrounding me all the time, right? So I think that's I think it's a critical point. So it works.
And then I saw these mesenchymal, the MSCs from umbilical cords. You can't do it in the US, but when I found out I had stage 3 kidney disease, I ran it through my multi-agent model, and it told me exactly who I should see and what the impact would be. I didn't realize that stem cells were so involved, but I also understood you couldn't do them in the US because during the Bush administration, some religious leaders came over and poo-pooed it, even though it had nothing, it's medical waste, right? And umbilical cords, after somebody delivers, very few people keep the umbilical cords. Anyhow, I got those stem cells, and within 6 hours, the sciatica in my back was gone, the neck pain was gone, my stage 3 kidney disease within a week was gone. I mean, everything changed because you have blank stem cells inside your body, undifferentiated stem cells. What I understood then is when I saw stroke patients, Alzheimer's, dementia, I saw them come in. There's only been 7,000 people that had the treatment I've had. But when I saw them come in and I saw the profound impact, talking again, walking again, I couldn't believe it. And so when I said about an integrated approach, if you go down through and prevent it, but at the same time, things like cerebrosplicin, which is a pig peptide that you can't do in the US, only 50 countries around the world can be done. Imagine, if we took an approach, and I just heard of somebody that had exactly that. They were having an ablation, I think they were done on their heart, and then freaking now they're paralyzed, right? They had a
Right.
stroke. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And so, and then what about the situation? Here's the other thing: when they have tools just like yours, and they go down through and use them, and you've got point guard, but you want to have the right kind of doctor that can do it. You don't just want anybody, right? So you need to have health grades. Wouldn't it be cool to have a system that can understand who's the best at putting it in and schedule the appointment for you?
Oh, absolutely. I think, TAVRs, which is the transaortic valve replacement, which is the primary procedure that we're focused on, it has a stroke rate anywhere between 3 and 5%. And that's a paraprocedural acute stroke, right? So it's as a result of the procedure. The other part is the silent stroke too, which is very concerning. And that's all the particles and debris that go to the brain. And that has an average around 18% silent stroke, which is any damage to the brain. And these are patients that ends up having dementia and late onset neurocognitive defects and different things like that. So yeah, I think, having an understanding or some kind of AI-based system that tells you who's the best out there is going to be important. I would certainly
want to have point guard. If I got into a jam, I'd want to have it. I wouldn't have any, after hearing some of the stories, I wouldn't want to have it. On the other side of it, I would want to have cerebral palsy. If I did have a stroke and you can't get it in the US, right? I would want to have it. I would want to go to Europe, or I want to go to Thailand, or I want to go to some place that has it because I want to get myself better. It's crazy. We have cures to problems and you can't access them. It is insane.
Yeah.
So now it's asking me this, and you've led teams in startups, mid-sized firms, and Fortune 500 companies. What are the leadership lessons that are universal that you've learned across all those companies?
That's a great question. It probably changes all the time, right? But I think the best lesson out of that is just listening to both your team and your teammates, listening to your leadership as well. So, I think listening and hearing what's going on is so critical to everything. And I think that's becoming even harder, in my opinion, in this day and age, because there's a lot of noise out there, right? And there's ways to circumvent listening to the actual people that are talking and have ideas, because we have this distraction called AI as well, right? So, people can go to AI and get their questions and get their answers taken, right? Versus, hey, let's sit down and have a small group discussion about what that may be. Let's listen to what's happening out in the market with our customers or our investors or our shareholders, and let's sit down and really solve that problem. And that's where so again, I think the listening aspect is critically important. And it's something that before even AI was a thing, we really did a good job of doing that. And I think that needs to carry forward in this day and age as well.
Because you were a good sales guy and you knew how to listen. That's a good sales guy.
Well, like I told you before, I didn't hear no, so maybe I didn't listen very well. But.
So one of the things, so it's going down through this idea that we talked about. It's saying, how do you see AI, robotics, or digital health tools impacting procedures and patient outcomes in general? Where do you see this, again, an integrated approach? Now it's saying with AI, robotics, and digital health tools. Do you think they're important? And one is for prevention, and the other side of it is to impact the efficacy of the procedures.
Yeah, I think the tools that we're developing, right, are critically important, right? I like to view it, and I've said it before in other discussions with other people, is that, you jump into a car, you put on your seatbelt and you go about your day, and, it's all good. But it's when someone comes around the corner and hits you that you need it the most, right? So our device is important in that sense. And the mindset should be embolic protection, or a point guard technology should be used in every procedure, and not just in TAVR.
I agree. Prevention is worth a pound of cure, right?
Exactly. The efficacy aspect of it is over time, right? Because the frequency of a stroke, let's just say, may not occur, but maybe a couple percentage of the time, right? You have to have a large population in order to observe that. But we all know it happens. We just can't predict when it's going to happen. So that's where you have this balance of when should you be using embolic protection? Well, use it every day in every procedure. Just
No,
like
I agree. I agree with you. People, I'm a psychologist, right? And part of the being a psychologist, you're learning about stroke and the impact. And so now it says to me, you're currently leading a Series C funding round. What are you looking for in the right kind of investment partners? And here's the thing: it said, have you considered family offices?
Yes, so I'll answer the last part of that question. Yes, we have considered family offices, and actually, Transverse Medical has been led by. We haven't taken venture capital, so we've most of our capital has come from a large family office, high net worth individuals, and private credit investors. We intend to continue that trend into a Series C because of the environment for early stage med tech hasn't been they're not really getting funded by a lot of venture capital. It's more early or later stage where you're seeing the VCs come into the picture. So our strategy is definitely go out and continue to find family offices, go after the Series C. That's going to support our FDA clinical trial so that we can bring this important device like PointGuard to the market. We'd obviously like to bring in some other strategics and various things like that into this round as well. But I think family offices are the new VCs.
Well, I don't know. We're one of the family offices, and I deal with about 1,500 family offices. So I live in Palm Beach, and I speak at many of the family office conferences, and especially about longevity and stem cells and AI. They're just hot topics. But about 85% of it. So I got a recent statistic from one of my friends at Stanford, who's a venture professor. About 85% of it in the biotech arena is now coming from the families, right? The family offices want to get more involved because why would they want to give up 2 and 20 when they can do it themselves? One of the families that I know of directly, that family's worth about $4 trillion, right?
Oh, wow.
Seriously. And I was just out with the Church of Latter-day Saints. There's a lot of money and funds out there around Salt Lake City, Utah, and especially in areas like Ariella Capital, the Huntsman family. They're investing in technologies like yours, just FYI. So finding those people, but here's another problem is having the connectors to be able to figure out where they are. It ain't so easy to find them because they don't want to be found sometimes.
Yeah, and you just hit the nail on the head right there. The hard part about wanting to have family offices, invest in your company is you've got to go out and find the family offices. Different than VC. VCs are pretty broad, public. They have their websites. They say everything that they're doing. Here's my mandate. Good luck trying to find that with family offices, right? So I think it's networking with people like yourself and other organizations and groups that have a focus on family offices that will make that difference. And eventually you'll find that family office or they'll find you, right? But you have to be
they come to me all the time. I was with 2 of them today, right? We're one of the family offices. I say we're like the smallest house on the block, but we're still on the block.
That's right.
And they're interested in longevity. I would say half of my presentations at family office event is because I'm one of the 700 people that have had 2 full body stem cell replacements, and it's dramatically shifted everything. People want to live longer, right? And what you do, think about it, Eric, it's about what you're doing is one is worth of prevention, but the other thing is the longevity.
Yep. Well, people want to live longer, right? So we want to have a good quality life.
Better quality life, right?
Yeah. And so, but that's what's so important about medical device technologies like PointGuard, because if you're preventing that one stroke, 1 in 100,000, times, right, that a stroke occurs, it's so critically important, and especially for younger patients. We're starting to see with recent approvals by some of the TAVR companies, patients that might be 60 years old, right, going in to have a TAVR. But if they had a stroke, the quality of their life just diminished, right?
Oh, no, I agree.
Yeah. So
you and I can get it. You and I can get it. I have a number of medical device companies in our portfolio. So we've got one. It's so medical imaging companies. We've got vaccines for cancer. Double PhDs have built vaccines for cancer. One of them came out of Boston Scientific. Its ability to tell if you have cancer through your breath, right? Another one, so a bunch of them like that. But I agree. But the other thing is, you don't know what you don't know, and so hopefully through the show people learn about you and the kind of things that you have. Listen, we're coming to the top of the show. you want to spend a few minutes after we're done, it would be great to talk to you. So closing thoughts, and how do people get a hold of you, Eric?
Sure. Yeah. We have a website out there for Transverse Medical. It's transversemedical.com, or Eric.Goslau at Transverse Medical is easy to get a hold of me that way. As you mentioned at the beginning too, I also co-founded Secure Closure, and there's a Secure Closure website out there as well, and you can always reach us through that. But in parting thoughts, I think, one of the things that gave me a lot of value growing up as a young boy, I think I was like 10 or 11 years old, was the newspaper route. Unfortunately, where are the modern day newspapers? They don't exist anymore. And so, that taught me how to, be responsible at a very, very young age. It taught me, probably developed my woo strength, which everybody always tells me, boy, you got a lot of woo out there. And I'm like, yeah, well, when you get doors slammed in your face trying to go and collect for your newspaper that you delivered, last week, you start to get hungry for your money, right? So you can go get your Slurpee down to 7-Eleven and whatnot. So my advice is, everybody's got to go out there and figure out and get that experience of their modern day newspaper route and figure out how they can develop those skills, right?
That's great. And so what's the best way to get a hold of you? LinkedIn, email?
LinkedIn is great. Email is great. Phone number is great. I don't like to give my phone number out all that much, right? Because I get so much marketing scam. So like I said, just go to transversemedical.com and you can ping me on there, or LinkedIn.
All right, Eric, thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule for joining me today. And thanks to all my audience for joining one more time. GSD presents Top Global Startups. My name is Gary Fowler, and I'm your host. Stay happy, stay safe, and stay healthy. And I'll be back to you again soon with another exciting edition. Thanks, Eric, and thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Gary. Appreciate it.